Welcome everyone back. Um, Anissa Ari is a scholar practitioner of leadership. She works in international development, peace and conflict resolution. She's a facilitator. She's on the advisory board of the Association for Conflict Resolution, of which I'm a member. I'm not as active as I used to. And she's associate professor and director of the Ambassador Leadership Program, University of Florida. And she is accompanied by Farida Abraham, who is a health communication scholar and a public speaker. And she is an arts and science student ambassador and public speaking instructor at Kansas State. So they're going to be talking about, I think it's authorizing you before the title. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's an interesting, I'm curious to see how this works and what you talk about. So I am so glad you're both here. I will step out. You should be able to share your screen and then we'll take questions at the end. So thank you both.
Thank you, David. Okay, I'm gonna try to put up my screen now. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Trying to organize the screen. Oh, what is this? Move it out of the way. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. How we all doing today? I'm doing great. Really pumped up to be here today and talk about a topic that's really close to my heart. And the title is Authorizing You Before the Title and the Position. And I'm deeply honored to be here with Farida Abraham, who has worked extensively in peace building in conflict reading areas. So she's going to be sharing some of her experiences out there in the field. And this topic is really close to my heart because over the past 2 decades, when I was just trying to navigate what it means to be working in the corporate world, to be out there in the wild, in parentheses, I always thought that um, I needed a job, I needed a title, I needed a position to be able to move the needle on things I cared about in my communities. And I mean, in my community and communities around me. However, I learned the hard way. And it's nice to sometimes learn the hard way because you send out a lot of applications for job and you never hear back. But there are things that, keeps you up at night. You are sleepless, you're thinking about these things that you care about in your community, and you keep telling yourself, like, you just keep tugging at your gut, and you keep telling yourself, like, okay, um, what can I do? Do I keep waiting for the government? Do I keep waiting for institutions that have the legitimacy in terms of authority to tackle issues around conflict, peace building, food insecurity, health access, and all of these, you know, things that affect existential issues that affect the people of the world? And I learned that you don't have to be at a spot. You don't have to be stuck. Even without the platform of a formal job, you have what is called an informal authority. An informal authority to take the step forward, to engage with others, have meaningful conversations on issues that you care about, and try to make sense of it. So that's the main anchor of, my presentation today. It's beyond, and I've sat down with Farida, we've shared experiences, and we're able to synthesize and articulate what you're going to be hearing from us today. It's outside of, textbook. These are our real life experiences we're sharing with you about how to step up to the plate, even without the legitimate authority of a position or a title. And it's a deep honor to be here today to talk about these things. And I hope that we'll be able to meet your aspiration we'll be able to meet your, I mean, we're able to achieve your aspiration and help you achieve that aspiration around why you're all here today listening to our presentation. I hate to use the word presentation. For me, it's a conversation. I'm here to have a conversation with you, trying to make sense of what it means to authorize yourself, you know, to, move the needle on things you care about. So, my hope that at the end of the 45 minutes, we're going to be having this conversation, we'll be able to help reframe what leadership means. Two, we'll be able to situate peace building and humanitarianism in the evolving and complex world that we live in right now. And we'll be able to make sense of what it means for you to authorize yourself even without a position or uh, title. And we hope that at the end of our conversation today, that you'll be able to engage a roadmap that situates you to walk outside of, what it means to hold authority. So leadership without authority. That sounds like an oxymoron, especially in the traditional context. When we think about leadership, we always think about um, people in leadership position. But here we are trying to um, help reorient the whole idea, the whole notion around leadership, that leadership is a verb, is a doing work, it's an action, it's doing the thing, doing the work, doing the grunt work. So in starting, I want to start off by sharing a little bit of my experience in conflict. I lived in a community that was, really, really volatile. And growing up, it was really scary. It was really scary. My experiences are things that would keep me all through my life in front of a therapist. Like I saw the worst and worst of what it means to be inhuman. I walked over burnt, dead corpses. I I saw people got killed. I saw, places that I really cared about got burnt down. I saw the extreme of devastation. And looking at the current world that we live in, there is different pockets of, crisis, community crisis, um, wars, and all of these are beyond what you and I listen to on the media, on the TV. They have layered complexities. And coupled with that, the civic space walking around peace building and humanitarian action is constantly shrinking, like it's persistently shrinking. Um, Funders are reprioritizing what they want to, where they want to put their dollars, and nonprofit organizations, non-governmental organizations are competing for, the limited fund, and it leads to, different kind of fragmentation where there's duplication of efforts, organizations are not talking to each other. And for me, it's really an ineffective way to engage civically. So my question to you to reflect on is, when you think about how you used to do the work that you do around peace building and humanitarian action, is it still serving you? Like, are your tools, are your methods, are your approaches, is this still serving you in the current world that we live in? You can put yes, you can put no, you can say things are evolving, things are changing, or you're rethinking what that means. But I think this is a very powerful question for us to think about. So think about it like a toolbox. I was explaining to my youngest son yesterday, and I said, You as an individual, you are a toolbox. And what kind of tools do you have in your toolbox? The kind of tools you have in your toolbox prepares or equips you to face the challenges of life. And over years, you're just so familiar with that toolbox, all of those tools in the toolbox, and it feels like almost like a sibling to you. Yeah. Some of us have those toolbox in our garage, and we don't want to let go of certain tools that are no longer useful to us. We're like, okay, maybe in the next 10 years they're going to be useful to us, or maybe in the next 5 years they're going to be useful. But right now, maybe in the next 1 year, it's not going to be useful because I might not have a need for it. And I asked him, like, in the next 5 years, what do you want to be? What do you want to achieve? Now, if you think about that, in the next 5 years, a lot of challenges would have come your way, and you would have gone to the store, Home Depot, or some of those stores to get more tools and put in the toolbox because of the things that you have to deal with. And your toolbox just keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier by the day. So, how much of that weight can you carry today? Because you're so used to the toolbox that some of the tools in the toolbox have become like pets to you, have become like siblings and best friends to you. But in the next 5 years, would you need all of those tools in the toolbox, is there going to be like a new invention of what a spanner looks like, of what a screwdriver looks like? Yeah. These days, sometimes when I want to screw things in the house, my son will be like, okay, mom, we have uh the one what's it called? Like a bullet thing you just put in and it helps to screw it. The name is going to come back sometime. Rather than, using the screwdriver to screw it. So things are evolving. And because things are evolving, we have to evolve with things or we're going to be left behind. So again, think about what are the ways that we're used to doing things? Are they currently serving us? Or are they currently, let me rephrase, are they currently serving the work that we set out to do? Are they currently helping us address the existential issues facing us today? Or do we need to reinvent? Do we need to reframe? Do we need to go to Home Depot to get a new kind of tool? All right, so I want you all to, in 1 minute, think about what are your struggles in terms of the reflection you just had about what are the tools in my toolbox and how are they serving me or the situation that I'm seeking to address? What is the struggle? Where do I feel tension? If you have a sheet of paper, you can write on it, or you can even put it on the chat. I really want this engagement to be really bi-directional. So put in the chat, what are you struggling with? Thinking about how you used to do things and how you used to do things in the past 1 year, 2 years. And if you're thinking about moving forward, or based on the little reflection we just had, where do you see a struggle? Where do you feel, I'm a little bit fatigued or lethargic or burnt out using this particular approach? Because it feels like we're just recycling the wheel and going in a cycle and just, achieving the same things. In the work that you're doing, are there new things based on the approaches that you're engaging with? Are there new outcomes? Are there new ways of knowing and doing? Are things changing? Is the needle moving? It would be great to see that on the chat. So while you're thinking about that, consider the urgency of peace building in the current world that we live in. What feels urgent? What keeps us up at night? What feels like if we don't address this, then things are really going to go really, really awry. We could think about five different things, but are we able to, based on the resources that we have and our capacity, can we, or are we able to honestly tell ourselves that we can be able to address these five real urgent things in 2026? Or when we look around us, we're like, okay, Dr. Ari has the capacity to handle just two because it's deeply urgent to me. And how do you even define urgent? Is it urgent to you, Dr. Ari, or is it urgent to the people that are deeply affected by that issue? Okay, I see things coming up in the chat. Farida, can you go to the chat and just read off some of the beautiful things that have been shared?
Okay. Give me a sec. Someone here said, because I don't want to call anybody by name,
Yeah, that's
I
great.
see I see tension and fatigue in the constituency that supports peace and humanitarian efforts in the US, or perhaps the lack thereof. Those who work in the field, they seem to support our efforts the most, but I don't think that's enough. Another person says peace building feels more urgent than ever, and yet let's prioritize at the highest governance levels.
Hold on. So that takes me to what I've been talking about around what can you do within your sphere of influence? How do you think you're part of the mess? How are you implicated in the whole situation around, peace building? When we keep looking at, do we keep waiting for those in positions of authority to intervene and lead? Or what are the little things? My mom used to tell me that little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. We can solve world peace. Yeah, it's aspirational. It's like it's just too huge, over ambitious. We can solve world peace. But what can we do? What can we do to contribute to solving world peace? Do we fold our hands and wait for positions of authority to lead? Why? Because they have the infrastructure, they have the budget, they have the strategic plan, they have the wherewithal, everything they need. Or do we look around us, around your neighborhood? Who cares about peace? Who cares about safety? Who cares about security? Can I have dinner with them? Can I have a cup of coffee with them and just have meaningful and purposeful conversations around what does construct means? And you know what? From conversations and trying to make sense of what's going on around peace building, things can happen. Things can happen. Things beyond your imagination. How are you mobilizing others? How are you inspiring others around the things that you care about? Who are you talking to? Who are you not talking to? There is power in engagement. There's power in just having conversations. Sometimes you feel it's just a complete waste of time. I've been there, just having this conversation. But every time I walk away from having a one-on-one conversation with someone around wars, around insecurity, global insecurity, I don't feel like it's a useless conversation. I feel like I have dropped something with that person, and that person is going to walk away with that thing. And I also, two ways. I also feel that person has dropped something with me and I'm walking away with that thing. I'm going to be pondering, I'm going to be mulling over that thing. That's an action. And you don't know what you might have ignited. So when we talk about the tensions between humanitarian actions and peace building, I think it's important for us to um, create a distinction between both. For humanitarian actions, I mean, when you think about the experiences of people who have dealt with natural disasters, have dealt with war, and the level of deprivation they face is urgent. It requires urgency. Yeah? You don't want to think too much about it. Let's act. What do we have in the house? Do I have some apples? There are some people out there in the streets who are homeless right now because their house is flooded. I can take the apples to them. That's urgency. You're acting based on urgency. You're not waiting for the government, yeah, to fly around in helicopters and distribute food, basic health needs, and things that people need to sanitize themselves and their environment due to the disaster. But when we look at it through peace building lens, it's usually long term. Peace building is long term. Yeah, it's urgent, but it's also long term. It's not something that can be solved at the spur of the moment. Right now, I declare world peace. Hmm. I wish I had the magic wand. But it requires step by step conversations, carrying out diagnosis. What's going on? Let's make sense of what's going on. Conversations after conversations. What are the factions that exist around what peace building means or what it means to enact peace? Who is resisting and why are they resisting? You don't neglect those resistors. You don't, because they're part of the faction. They have an interest that is close to their heart. So how do you engage people who are loyal to certain ideology, notion of peace building, or what it means to enact peace? And also those who are your allies, those who have similar thinking and ideas with you, around what it means to really do the work of peace building. It's long term. And you know what? It's a practice. It's the daily things we do. What are those daily things that we do every day? Have you heard the word everyday peace? What are those things that we do every day that contributes to long-term transformational change? Also, when we're thinking about the whole thing about humanitarian and action and peace building, within the humanitarian ecosystem, neutrality is prioritized. I've heard different conversations around you can't be neutral. You can't be neutral in situations like this. You need to take sides. It's either you're in or out. You can't be lukewarm, hot or cold. But it's important to also consider the cultural, the social political ethics around the people you're working with, the places you're working with. So what this means is that you are respecting what exists and engaging with what exists to work with people in effective ways that they actually own the process. I've been within this peace building ecosystem for too long that I understand that sometimes most of the interventions are templatized. They designed somewhere outside of the people that are deeply affected by conflicts or humanitarian situations. And then they bring it to them. I'm like, okay, these are the approach. based on the expert hat I'm wearing. These are the approach towards dealing with these issues. Humanitarian action, it's more about relief. What are those things that I can do right now that will provide the temporary relief? Clothing, food, medicines, health care, and all of that. But peace building is transformational. And because it's transformational, it is long term. Step by step, what needs to change? What needs to change rather than temporary? Take this, feel good with this right now. But what needs to change for us to have a peaceful and more secured environment? And then access. We want to be able to provide all of those basic needs to those in humanitarian situation. Like I said, provide medicines, provide wellness and health packages. But peace building focuses on who is on the discussion table, who has been hurt, how we contributing to alleviating. How are we ensuring that people who have been hurt get justice? There are different pockets of ideas around our institutions working on transitional justice in war-torn areas. And sometimes I wonder, like, how do we even engage in transitional justice when they're still killing, they're still burning, they're still destroying? People are in the heat of the pain. The ground is soaked with blood. And yet, there are people who believe that, okay, let's start to engage in transitional justice. Mm-mm.
All right. I would like to begin by saying that it is crucial we begin to reconsider how we think about leadership, how we think about humanitarianism, and also how we think about change. Now, the old frame always assumes that we are the experts, and so we should always identify the problems. We should also design solutions and implement them. But this frame, it feels strategic and more structured. But in complex conflict affected environments, this frame consistently fails. And this is because communities are not passive recipients. They are active in things that have to do with their needs and their wants. And these conditions, they are not predictable. And so the point is, expertise without trust is just you imposing on them. Now, the new frame, it doesn't mean we should let go of the skills and the knowledge we have, but it simply means we should recognize that our expertise is just one part of the process and not the entire solution. Co-creation begins when we begin to design programs with the people who are most affected, the people who have the experiences, the deep knowledge, which we do not have. Our job is to listen, actively listen before we design. And in the new frame, our plan has to change. We need to build in flexibility from the very first day. Show up consistently, take informed risk, and be willing to be wrong, because we do not know it all. No man is an island of knowledge. Next slide, please. So how do we give ourselves the permission to lead? We may be waiting for permission through getting a new job or a new title or being promoted at our workplaces. Or we might even be waiting for those official mandates before we feel authorized to lead. But the fact is, we need to stop waiting. Authorization is not just given from above. It is also built from below through relationships that lead to trust, through competence in what we say we know or what we say we're experts at, and through our presence. We are all a work in progress. We already have those relationships. We also already see things that others do not see, especially in the context where we are. Now, I would like to invite you to reflect on this. Ask yourself, where am I already leading, even without a title? Where am I holding back and also waiting for permission, which I actually do not need? This session is an invitation to start leading from where you are.
Thank you, Farida. So this is a great segue to the concentric systems. This is my favorite. I have been engaging with communities and around the world, and one thing I always say to people, individuals, and as a collective, is it's important for you to always start with self. Yeah, start with self. So look around you at your kitchen table, at your dining table, at your backyard, your neighborhood. What is within your sphere of influence? What is within your sphere of influence? What do you have the capacity to tackle, to address, even without working for maybe a state council or something, or work with a nonprofit organization? Is there is there like a high possibility of, you know, uh, auto accident or crash around the corner by your street, and there is a need for a stop sign or a hump on the road? As little or small as that seems, that's you thinking about what needs to happen on your street. What can you do based on that? What can you do based on you being Farida or Dr. Ari to ensure that there is a stop sign installed at that very sharp corner of the street? Or who do you need to have a conversation with so that there'll be some allocation or there'll be movement around creating a hump on the road? That's one thing within your environment that you can handle. So it always starts with you, around you. What is your capacity? Who is in your network? What do you care about? How are you even engaging with those conversations in a way that is not confrontational, a way that is more about, let's come together and try to make sense of what's happening in our street or in our neighborhood? And then, if we're able to tackle what's happening within our environment, we don't need the government to enact a law to say at your dining table at home, you must eat cucumber, you must eat strawberries, you must eat salad, you must have at least some portion of protein. These are decisions that you make on your own, with your own. So what are you able to solve around you first? That's leadership. That's you stepping up to the plate. When you're able to deal with that part, which is the self, Then you start thinking about groups. Okay, where can I take the whole need to have a stop sign to? My neighborhood, um, who is affected by the fact that there is no stop sign? Start having conversations with them. So now you're going to your neighborhood, around your street, and you're having those conversations. And then when you've tried to make sense and probably you've moved the needle around and people are galvanized and people are talking to the city mayor or public officials about that, then we start thinking about the community. What needs to happen at the community level for every street to have a stop sign, especially those with the four intersection? And communities, different pockets of communities are now having those conversations that you just had at your backyard or at your front porch. Different communities are having conversations about the need to have stop signs on their streets. And when communities, the power of number, the power of more voices, when communities are having those conversations, where are they who is in our community? Yeah, states are representatives, the mayors, different public sector officials, non-governmental organizations, schools. Everyone is in our community. So those conversations are definitely going to go to the state apparatus, state platform. And there might be a budgetary allocation that takes some public workers out into the street to detect where there needs to be a stop sign or not. Start taking note of it and develop a budget and start pulling together materials to go out there and install the stop sign across the state of Florida. I'm in Florida. So when we think about these concentric systems and build a nexus between what it means to lead and influence, you have different options. It could be your backyard. It could be across your organization or groups that you're working with. It could be in communities. It could be in state. I believe so much in the ecological model, social ecological model, that I keep telling myself, I'm raising two teenage boys, and I tell myself that the way I'm raising these boys is going to reflect out there in the communities. These boys are going to be products of Dr. Ari's industry. Yeah? They're going to be products of my scientific lab. They're going to be products of my leadership class. And they're going to go out there. And they're not going to give out what they don't have. They're going to give what they have. And what they have are the things that I have embedded in them. So it always starts with you first, then your family, then your community, then the larger landscape. So how are you authorizing yourself to lead from the highlighted portion of this concentric system that you're looking at on my screen? You don't need an authority. You don't need authority across all the systems. Yes, you need authority to influence certain people. But at the same time, I would contest with that you do not even need authority to influence with your credibility. In fact, first off, with the fact that you're passionate about the need to have a stop sign. Yeah? That's number one. That's a credibility. And you have stories to tell of, or you have the data of what is happening on that street because there is no stop sign. So you're bringing in raw data and you're bringing in your experiences on the street. to make sense of why we need to have a stop sign on that street. And then you're having those conversations. You've built credibility by doing that. And you're having conversations. You don't know who is going to take what you have just said to someone who has the authority to enact the change that keeps you up at night. So when we want to engage, or when we're engaging with people around peace building and humanitarian action, like I said, we always start off with the need to have credibility. What are the stories people telling about you? Why do you care so much about the stop sign? What are the stories people are telling about you connected to how much you care about the stop sign? Do they feel like, okay, probably you have someone in power of influence that's going to sign a budget and then issue out a contract to your company because you want your company to be contracted to put up the stop sign? Or do you deeply care about your community and you want to advocate for a stop sign? So what are the stories people are telling about you? Have you built credibility and trust enough through your conversations, through your engagement, that people know that when Dr. Iris starts something, she follows through on it. So I think it's worth having a conversation with her about having a stop sign on our street. Then when people disagree with you, how do you regulate yourself? Do you yell? Do you throw hands? Do you fight? Do you just, okay, block them and stop talking to them? Or are you consistent in regulating yourself because you're looking at the big picture? Yes, I might be crucified. I might be nailed to the cross. I might be insulted. I might feel all kind of hurt and disrespect by people who don't agree with me. But where is this going to lead to? What outcome am I focused on? It's also important to consider that you don't always have the right answer. Farida's touched on this. We keep learning every day. The way I'm thinking about the need to have a stop sign on my street might be different from someone who is living in the next street or the next 2 blocks away, you know? So what are they saying about the need to have a stop sign? And if they disagree with me, am I just so fixated on what I want to have or what I want to achieve so much that I fail to listen to them? So imagine there is an accident at a four-way intersection on a street. The stories you're going to tell about how the accident happened is contingent on where you're standing on the street. And let me tell you, the stories across those 4 ways are always right. So it depends on where you're standing on the street. If it's important for you to bring together people who disagree with you based on ideology, needs, interests, then we need to start thinking about what it means to mobilize. What it means to mobilize people around the need for us to have a stop sign on the street. They might come in with different perspectives, but how can we work differently towards achieving that stop sign on the street? So based on everything I've just said, I think I'm inviting you to just look at the slide and think about the work you're doing in your communities and ask yourself, where have you paused to diagnose a situation before acting? Where have you paused to diagnose? Like, what's going on? Let's try to make sense of what's going on here before acting. Or do you just have the expert hat to say, these are the things that are so instructive. These are the things that needs to be done because I've had 20 years experience in peace building or humanitarian action. What do we need to act urgently on? You need to be able to create a distinction between what is needed right now, what is urgently needed, and what do we need to dance around with before we take an action. Where do we need to be flexible? And what are those tensions that are bubbling up that we need to address? This is doing the hard and dirty work. And it takes leaders who understand that you need to be adaptable to do the work, to consider all of this, to make sense of what's going on before they take action. And it's not just a one-off thing, it is reiterative. There are things that you have to do over and over, continue to make sense. The way you're seeing things today might be different from how it shows up tomorrow. So doing the leadership work is tough. It's risky because you have to engage with people who most likely do not agree with you, who want to push you to the ground. You need to be courageous, you need to be committed, and you just have to really care about the issue for you to be able to do all of these things in the diagram on my screen. Farida.
So, of course, it's essential to get a new job, a new budget, or a new title to start applying what we've discussed today. We also should reconsider working with these three action steps, which is to engage, to act, and also to notice. So for the notice part of it, we need to take some time out and then map at least one tension in our current context. Where are we caught between urgency and long-term change? Where are we caught between access and also justice? And I need you to write it down. And feel free to share and put in the chat if you want to. So the next action step would be to engage, identify at least one person. It could be a community member. It could be one of your colleagues. It could also be a partner with whom you have not had a truly listening first conversation with, and then have that conversation with them. You don't have to bring in your agenda, nor bring in your already planned work, but just come with your curiosity. And for the last action step, based on what we've learned, take one small, ethical, feasible step forward. A grandiose plan or a proposal is not that essential here, but an action is quite important here. You don't need a permission from anybody, but start right where you are. What can we do right now to contribute to transferring what we actually care about? Use what you have and then do what you can. Over to you, Anissa.
All right, so in a closing reflection, I'd like to invite you, or feel free to unmute and just say what's on your mind or share your thoughts or opinions. But I want you to reflect on these two powerful questions. Where am I waiting to hold a title or a position instead of taking a step forward? Think about the work you're doing. Do you feel disempowered? Do you feel unauthorized? Do you feel, okay, this is above my pay grade? Yes, we need to protect our jobs. We need to protect where our biweekly or monthly check is coming in from. But at the same time, we want to ask ourselves, honestly, are there things that I can do within my sphere of influence that I don't need to be authorized to do? but contributes to moving the needle on the things that I care about. And if you're still waiting to get a job, the question is, while I'm waiting to get a job, what can I do
Mm.
on the things that I care about? And who knows? This is out of my experience. While I was doing things that I really cared about without getting a job, without holding a job, it created opportunities for me
Mm.
to get a job.
So thank you, Brita and Anissa. We are out at time. That was very um, calming and reassuring, and thinking about. I always like the discussion of thinking about what our community really is and how we can support ourselves through our community and how we can work in those spaces that are close to us. So I really felt good about that conversation.